In our lifetime, we will spend roughly 30 to 40% of our time basically sleeping. The next 20 to 25% of our time, we will spend that in the place of work or in the place of study. And I'm gonna put a visual of how students versus adults spend their time. But more importantly, I wanna talk about what we are spending our time doing. I would do things slightly differently in my 20s that would ensure that I'm retiring very, very nicely in my 40s. Let's get started. So the first thing I'll try to do if I was trying to really and truly get ahead of the game is I would learn an income generating skill. There is so much power in learning income generating skills. And there are two types of skills. There are soft skills and there are hard skills. Hard skills are things like foreign languages, data analysis, design, vocal skills, things like plumbing, baking. Those are like more hard skills. Soft skills are things like critical thinking, problem solving, and I would even add an extra one, which is business skills, which are things like project management, sales, and marketing. And the reason why I say that you should learn these things and not necessarily just rely on university or the place of work, but actually take up additional learning, extracurriculum learning by, taking up courses online, learning from the brightest and the best in the industry, is because these allow you to pivot and change depending on the economy. There is not enough just being in one specific industry anymore. We are not in times anymore where you can just say, I'm going to be an engineer and that's all I'm going to do the rest of my life. Most likely by doing that, you run yourself the risk of any economic downfall being made redundant and only mastering one skill. Now, we're not saying you have to be skilled in all areas, but learn a few skills. So say for example, if you are, technically skilled in a technical space, I would always say have a backup plan in learning a vocational skill, like maybe a plumbing or electrician, or potentially you're trying to learn baking. Now, obviously these are skills that you might need extra time in, but a skill that allows you to still earn income even in hard times. And as a young person, I think we are taught a lot, and I was taught a lot, to just go to school, get a job, and be a master in your field. And that's fine. It's great to be an expert. But I think in this day and age, you can't just stay in the same industry. You can't stay in the same thought process. You have to be multifaceted. And multifaceted is basically saying, I can do this skill, but I also have these skills. It allows you to pivot, chop and change. And it also allows you to be an overall well-rounded individual. So if I was in my 20s, I would definitely be learning an income generating skill alongside maybe my main discipline. Ever heard about being at the right place at the right time? Well, that's what networking can actually do for you. And the proximity of you being around, successful people, or people that are, doing well, people that may be doing well in the future, you suspect to be doing well in the future, and keep in contact with them. And obviously it's a two-way, relationship here. And, it's not just I'm going to be around them, I'm not going to offer any value. The power of networking is so, so important. Proximity is so, so important. There are people that are in my 20s that I met just through networking that I became friends with. We stay connected and we have done business in the past, and we've worked together, or they supported me in a journey that I'm working on, or they have a skill set in a space that I don't have knowledge on, and I can leverage their skills and they can leverage my skills. If I was in my 20s, networking would be one of the top things I would be doing. I'll be networking like crazy. As a 20-year-old, be out there, get known, be in the right places, be in the place that you want to attain or aspire to. They will absolutely help you in the future, because building those networks are very, very quick cheat sheets into industries and insights and into growth. So definitely consider networking as one of the key things you do in your 20s. If there's anything you take away from today's message, it is investing early. I started investing in my mid-20s. If I could change that, I would start investing at this age of 16 or 18. I would invest as early as feasibly possible. And this is all down to the idea of compound interest. And compound interest, I'm gonna give it really simply, is basically you're putting a certain amount of money, it has a certain amount of interest rate, and basically based on that specific amount of money, it just compounds. Based on the interest rate, you add a little bit extra. And then by putting more money into it, it just increases over time. And the interest you're getting on top of it is compounding on top of the interest. So it's interest on top of interest. Compounding is powerful, but where compounding gets really, really sexy and really, really nice and really, really attractive and really, really thinking I should have started when I was like a little bit of a baby, is basically when you give it enough time. Someone starting investing in at the age of 18 versus someone starting at 28 has a 10-year compounding effect. You can't buy time. Even the smallest amount you invest now will compound in the future. Compound interest is a very, very powerful thing. And I would invest in very, very simple products like funds. A simple index fund, you hear all the time, the S&P 500 is an example you can invest into. Now, by doing that and investing into funds like the S&P 500, what you're doing there is diversifying your portfolio first of all, and you're letting compound interest work over time. But more importantly, you're letting time do the hard work. And then you're not having to work longer years in your life because you're letting compound interest work for you. So it's like waking up and seeing an extra couple of pounds in your bank account, in your savings bank account, in your investment bank account, because you allowed time to compound. When I started doing this in my mid-20s, I could not believe how much I was compounding year on year on year. And I just wish I started early. So if you are young and you have the ability to invest, even if it's $10, $5, $100 per month, per year, do it. It will compound over time. But the discipline to it is letting it compound. So you've got the idea that you've got time, you let it compound over time, but you also allow it to compound. So you have to invest in a way you're not going to need it for several years down the line for it to have its full-on effect. The fourth one I absolutely tell every graduate to do is career hopping. I'm going to say it again. Career hopping. You need to learn how to career hop like your life depends on it. I have never stayed in a role when I was in my 20s for longer than 2 years. It was never a thing. It was never going to be a thing. And the reason why, I'll explain. Most time when you graduate out of university, you are on a graduate scheme of some sort. You are on a university sort of salary, ex-university salary. You left university, so you're starting to learn, and that's absolutely fine. But most likely those schemes, I think, are left to just keep you there for a long period of time, and you have to want it really badly to really expand yourself. Now, bear in mind, there are schemes that actually have a program over 2, 3, 4 years that you actually grow into management. Those are fine. But most times what will happen is that you will end up just being stuck. So I honestly agree in career hopping. And career hopping, the concept it sounds very funny, but actually is really simple. What you're doing is basically saying, I'm going to stay in a role, I'm going to learn absolutely everything. 2 years down the line, if I don't get an opportunity, or I don't seek out an opportunity to either move on to the next tier in my career and salary increase, you find another opportunity elsewhere that incrementally increases your learning and increases your salary. Because the long run, like I always say, time is of the essence. You don't have time, you can't buy back time. So the longer you're not being competitive financially and also in skill sets, your other counterparts are ahead of you. So career hopping is really, really key. I always say, give yourself 2 years, maybe 3 at the most, and then career hop. It's a great way to basically excel in your industry. If you are, like me, a little bit more risque, maybe go freelancing. Freelancing is another great way that you can literally career hop very, very quickly. But what I mean by career hop, you stay in the same industry, but you are basically looking for opportunities, maybe with a higher salary bracket, or maybe the role is slightly different, that you can actually grow in your career space. Freelancing is another great way, but I always say freelancing is for those who can take risks, who can manage their finances better. But if you can do freelancing right, you have ample amounts of opportunity to really, really grow. But it depends on you, because you have to treat freelancing like a business. Next one is avoid the consumerism trap. Fast fashion, gambling, social media, car notes, all of the above are basically ways in which you can end up being very stuck in your 20s and struggling in your 30s. Now, this is not for everybody. Some people are really good with their finances. Some people earn a really, really good income and they can manage it. But I believe that when you are spending a lot of your money in fast fashion, if you're spending on gambling, if you're spending on car notes that are literally very expensive, they can take at least 10% of your salary, 20% of your salary per month. That's basically money that's basically being redirected into things that are not actually going to yield you much value. They're depreciating assets. Instead, invest in something that will actually yield you something more in the future. So my thing, avoid consumerism traps as much as you possibly can. Avoid the urge to follow trends and follow your future, because in long term, that will benefit you so much more and save you so much time and so much money, and you will pretty much thank yourself later for it. The sixth one is trumping negative thoughts. Did you know that on average we have 12 to 60,000 thoughts every single day? 95% of them are repetitive, but 80% of them are negative. Now, this is just a human nature in us. We can't get away from it. We can't run away from it. it's just there. But the important thing here is, if we are as humans naturally having roughly about 80% of our thoughts being negative, we need to be able to be aware of that and always trump those negative thoughts. That's the reason why most people don't start something, because they have these voices in their head that says you can't do it, maybe it's not the right time, maybe you should hold off. Trump the negative thoughts. If you can do this in your 20s, you will be so much more successful in your 30s and your 40s, and you will grow. A lot of the time people start things later down the line in their 30s and 40s because now they feel like they've mastered the ability to trump the negative thoughts. The earlier you can trump negative thoughts and people, being negative, and the sooner you can do that, the more successful you will be. So definitely trumping negative thoughts is a very good way to be more successful in your 20s. One is avoid debt till you understand leverage. So, and leverage is basically you're taking debt, right? But you're using it to invest in something you know and understand the risk of. So you have an entry strategy and you have an exit strategy, but you understand the risk. So you take on the leverage to invest to basically scale your business in X, Y, and Z way. Now, I always say avoid debt, avoid any sort of debt until you understand leverage. When you understand the consequences of taking out debt and you understand the benefits of taking out debt, then I would say take out debt. But if you are in your 20s, avoid as much debt as possible. Most people come out with debt on their student finance or a loan and they're trying to pay that off. Avoid taking out any more debt. Avoid taking out credit cards you don't need. If you don't need it, don't use it. I honestly can't say that enough. Debt doesn't help unless you understand leverage. So give yourself time to understand leverage, but if you are going to take out debt, understand it and use it for the better good so you can build on it. But don't use it for just buying what I would call basically trash, things that don't even add value to you, things that are depreciating. So here's what I say is, don't take debt that you don't understand. If you understand leverage and you've understood the risk and you're calculated, great, but avoid debt as much as you can, especially in your early 20s. And the final one is health is wealth. Like, this is what I live by, is the mantra you live by. If you've ever listened to successful people and if you've ever heard their last words, most times there will always be something around the idea of health and looking after yourself. Just go to an old people's home and speak to them, and most of them will say that one thing they wish they did more and looked after themselves was their health. They literally look after their health. If you don't look after your health, the cost of not looking after your health is detrimental to your pockets. So if you want to reserve your money in your retirement for things that you enjoy rather than paying for surgeries and healthcare that you could have avoided through looking after your health, eating better, exercising regularly, then I would say take your health very, very seriously. Most times in our 20s, we are living our best life. It's like YOLO to the no-los. And I don't know why I said that, but anyway, it's like living your best life. And by doing that, what's actually happening is that you sometimes can impact your life in many different ways. If you drink excessively in your 20s, you could be impacting your livers and your kidneys in the future, which causes you to have surgery or cause you to pay extra in healthcare costs that you don't need to do. So if I was you in your 20s, enjoy every now and again. There's no problem in living your life. And also, if you want to enjoy the fruits of your labor in your 20s, well, your late 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 100s, then you need your health. If you don't have your health, you haven't got anything. And that was it from me, guys. I hope you enjoyed the top items that I think in your 20s you need to consider in order to be very successful and in order to be very, very wealthy and very, very healthy in your late 40s and beyond. See you guys later. Take care. See you on the next one.